Good afternoon, and welcome to episode 14 of Inside Out, a monthly webcast where Thinka's co-founders and respective CEO and CEO, Ben and Lee, talk through all the weird and wonderful, hard and human parts of business and leadership. This month, we're exploring metaskills and adaptability. Metaskills are the timeless transferable skills crucial to adapt.
We're interested in this idea of meta skills from the perspective of teaching skills that have this high degree of human uniqueness that can't be automated. So these are going to be the skills that influence the future of work in that they will help us integrate technology into our roles, AI and automation, to help with more manual coordination geared tasks while we develop these meta skills. So, meta skills are the skills to learn skills. So, things like critical thinking, creativity, curiosity, all the C's, adaptability, self-awareness, and empathy. So developing these skills really gives your organization this kind of sense of core capability so that it really does empower this future of work, which is all about autonomy and giving more empowerment to the front line. There's been a lot of work done around meta skills. So Scotland, for example, has sort of started introducing this in 2016 into their school curriculum. So they had these three families of skills: self-awareness, social intelligence, and innovation, and some sub-skills underneath. And they really wanted to focus on developing out these areas in their students so that they will go into the workforce already having some of these core capabilities built in. And we've also seen some amazing work done in Denmark as well. So the Danish curriculum was upgraded to introduce a subject on empathy, for example. So the reasons for that was to reduce bullying and harassment in schools and to develop a greater awareness of other students and their perspectives. And it's definitely reduced bullying statistics significantly in Denmark. So it does go to show that meta skills aren't kind of the fluffy, nice to have skills. There's definitely both a case for them in education and in business as well.
Lee, what's your criteria for metaskill? Like it's enduring? Is that one of them? Yeah.
Enduring, it is evergreen, so therefore it doesn't necessarily change in terms of what the skill is, but the context will change and potentially the pace with which the skill is applied. So they're skill accelerators, I want to say, and they're foundational to the building of all other capabilities.
Okay, so that helps me understand now the difference between what a metaskill would look like and what a traditional technical or soft skill, human skill would look like, because these are the foundation or the skills to learn those skills, really.
Yeah, so for example, you can teach someone how to do active listening, say,
Hmm.
or you can teach that person how to have greater self-awareness and social intelligence, where there's an empathy for others and an understanding of the value of other perspectives. That is actually going to empower that active listening piece without you explicitly teaching active listening. So, not all skills are created equal, in my view. There are some skills that are going to empower other skills without you explicitly teaching that particular kind of strategy or technique. So, do you teach empathy or do you teach active listening?
So, do you want a quick fix or
Yeah.
do you want a real fix? Yeah, we've heard this for a little while now around Dan Pink was the original author of some work around autonomy, mastery, and purpose, and really putting more work in the hands of individuals, and that they would feel empowered, or they could be able to work autonomously to deliver that, because it would lead to longer term job satisfaction and a whole range of benefits to it. I think now we're actually starting to see the how that can come about as well, because there are more tools that can enable some of what would have been done by the middle managers of the world. And really, that's the audience that's being impacted by what we were titling the Great Flattening, which is organizations making sure they've got the right amount of labor on the front line to deliver value to the customer, and not too many people between the customer and the decision maker. And Kev, you've got a great term for this. What do you call it?
It's called unbossing. This
Mm.
this idea, it's a different way to refer to the Great Flattening is unbossing, and it's removing that family tree-like setup to a hierarchy within a business. So it's no longer laddering up, and there's no longer my boss and my boss's boss and my boss's boss's boss and those tiers that you need to go through for a decision to be made, or even that you have to explain something to your boss so he can go and explain it to his boss, and you end up with that layers of it's like that game Telephone that you used to play as a kid, where you're seeing how diluted the message can get as it goes along, and how that affects the decisions that are being made. Those things don't need to happen anymore with this. So it does, yeah, it allows for a lot greater agility for decision making. Um, the interesting bit in it is as long as it's done well. We've seen some of these bigger companies, like we've seen Microsoft do it, Google's doing it, Meta's done it, Amazon's doing it as well. Amazon's was an interesting one where they wanted to up the ratio of employees to managers by 15%, which is like less of a we're going to remove this many jobs and more of we want to actually shift this many people to this many people, which is cool. But making sure people know where their decisions escalate to when you're flattening is really, really important, because that creates a really different problem for you to have if people don't know where they're supposed to go with an issue that they have. There's an interesting crossover with the meta skills and flattening at the same time concept. With one of the articles that we looked at in researching this, they're talking about you have to know where you can flatten and where you can't.
Mm.
And
Yeah,
AI is the same. Where can we fill with AI and where can't we?
100%.
Those two things, like if you make a mistake on those and you're not diligent about how you're thinking it through before you act, before you flatten or before you engage AI, you're going to make mistakes. So it's really important to think those things through.
And you've just got to Google AI chatbot horror stories.
Yeah.
Some examples of some companies. There are a couple of Australian ones in there that decided to outsource all their customer service to AI a little bit too soon, and it could never handle that complex decision making that would come with escalation. And of course, that meant they had to retract and wind back what they were intending to do. And how do organizations know, Lee, like what their metaskill deficit is, or where do they start, or what's this, how do we help this along? Like, thoughts?
I don't feel like I'm in the hot seat today.
Yeah, I know. I've got so many questions.
Yeah. I think just to kind of figure out what are the meta skills my organization needs, there's kind of two ways to go about it. One, there's a pain point analysis. So where is the biggest gap? You might see it in an engagement survey or in other data your organization has. So for example, if it's around a lack of psychological safety, then the meta skill you're going to want to foster is empathy. If it's around a lack of innovation, nobody kind of puts forward new ideas, they don't crack problems, there's a fear of making mistakes. Curiosity is probably going to be the meta skill that you work on. And in the world of Amazon, it's probably a 6-month stint just working on that one skill and building culture and L&D opportunities around it to really see it come to life. Could even be longer than that, depending on how deep and embedded you want the particular skill to go. But pain point analysis, and then is that aligned with strategy and where the organization wants to go is the other question. So thinking about that in relation to what is the critical skill that I need everyone to kind of have, or you may go, depending on the roles and the context, you may have sub skills that sit off that across different departments. But it is asking those questions, one around pain points and two around the future of the organization and its strategy.
The reskilling numbers, is it like 60% of the workforce is going to need some type of reskilling over the next 5 years to be able to work with this particular technological revolution. So it's not small. And of course, that's not going to all happen at once, and it's going to happen incrementally. And sometimes it goes by in a blink of an eye. But I think it's just good to know right now some intention is so important around, God, this is what we need to do to grow those skills, to learn the skills that we need from those often soft and hard baskets.